a very powerful framework that powers everything. That's all about creating APIs, authentication, permissions, and all of those good stuff. So in case you are coming from a different background, say Node.js, this will not be so difficult for you to follow. And so you need to navigate to Django REST Framework here at Django REST Framework.org. This is where everything happens. All right. Now, one thing I'll do for you is to do like a rundown for you on how the documentation looks, or what the documentation looks like. I think I didn't add that here, so let me just add that here. So I'll just do like documentation rundown for you. Documentation rundown. What we'll be checking out would just be basically everything you need to know. Documentation rundown. Okay, everything you need to know from beginning to the end. Of course, there might be parts of the documentation we're not looking to, but that's just because they are not necessary for you. So the first thing we want to look at in the documentation is the landing page here. So the landing page here is a good introduction to generally everything you need to know. So for example, there's installation part here, which the main thing you really need is the first installation. And once you are done installing like that, you add the add REST framework to the installed app so that the project will recognize it. Do your routing, and when you come down here, you see where you do your serialization, view sets, register your routes, and then the URL pattern. That's all you really need, and you have API running for you. But this introductory part might be a bit difficult for beginners, which is even why I'm making this tutorial. So if you feel that this is difficult, you could also check out the tutorials here, which starts with the quick start guide for you. There's a quick start guide where you'll be able to create a basic project in a very short while. They'll guide you through it if you are willing to read through what's here. But I still believe that for beginners this might be a bit difficult because it comes with authentication, permissions, and all that, which might be a bit advanced. After this, there is the serialization, which is a compulsory thing. It's like doing JSON.stringify in JavaScript. So this is very, very necessary, which of course without it you just run into an error. This is it here. Then we have the request and response, which is a basic API endpoint that you'll be creating using the function-based view. After this, there is the class-based view, which is an upgrade from the function-based view. And then there is the authentication and permission. There is the relationship and hyperlink APIs. Then there's the view sets and the routes. These are what you really need to know inside of this, inside of this documentation for you to really get started. For this tutorial, we will not be covering authentication and permissions, nor are we going to be covering relationships and hyperlinks API. I believe this is a bit advanced for beginners. So when you've gotten a hang of what the REST API is and how it should work, then I think it is time for you to advance to authentication and permission. So set it out. I'll be making another video for authentication in a minute. Not immediately, but of course that might be my next tutorial. So what we'll be covering here inside of this tutorial would be the quick start, not the quick start, the serialization, the function-based views, and the class-based views, and then we'll be looking at view sets. As we look at these things, we'll be also covering smaller things like mixins, like generics, and of course the routers that we talked about. Here's the API guide for going a bit more details into some of these things we have talked about. So for example, this is the request, the response, the views, the generic views, the view set, the routes. Here's the authentication permission, things we've talked about. Here's throttling, here's filtering, here's pagination, and all of this you will get a hang of gradually. But in this tutorial, we'll be looking at a beginner's guide, how beginners should really get started. These are other topics you might be interested in. Documenting your API, this is very, very, very important, which we'll be doing in a future video. And here's the community for anything you feel like you need, especially tutorial and resources. And this basically what you really need to know about this documentation. It wouldn't be difficult to follow. In fact, during this tutorial, we'll be looking at different parts of these tutorials, especially starting with this realization, which is like a basic building block. Okay, all right. Now that we have done a quick run through, we've been able to check out this box. So the next thing we want to do is to install the REST framework. And of course, I showed you where you can get this command if you want to install it. So it is over here. So I've already copied it. I'll just come in here and paste it. We're installing it inside of the virtual environment. So hit enter, and it has started. All right, so we can just get rid of this. Yes, saying would you like create a virtual environment for these packages? I've already created a virtual environment, so that wouldn't be necessary. Let's get rid of all of this. Okay, so that is out of the way. So let's continue. I guess everything should be working fine now. So now that we've gotten this out of the way, the next thing is to add the REST framework to the installed. So how do we do this? Basically, you just need to take this and add it to the installed apps here. So just add it below here, and that gets you ready to use the REST framework like that. So that's just what you really need.